Guys, before we get into things today, I feel like it is my duty to tell you that Amazon is having a sale. So right now I'm currently not on a book buying ban, but on like a book buying pause until this sale. Starting April 23rd to April 28th, Amazon is having a massive sale on their books. Right now they've even started. So like I checked this morning, Intermezzo by Sally Rooney is 44% off, which I feel like means I officially need to pick up that book, although I'm kind of scared because there are no quotations in that book, but I'll just rip off the Band-Aid. It's 44% off. It's fine. And then once the sale actually starts, print books are up to like 40% off and Kindle books are up to 80% off. And if you're like me and you have Kindle Unlimited, which let me just take a second to say, it's so worth it. I like hemmed and hawed about Kindle Unlimited for a couple years. I was like, I don't know if it's worth it. I don't know if I'm going to read that many books. It's worth it. And once the sale starts, you can get Kindle Unlimited for like 3 months for 99 cents. So try it for 3 months. If you don't like it, that's totally fine. But trust me, you will. They have access to like 2 million books. And speaking of Kindle Unlimited, the author who has joined me today sometimes has some of her books on Kindle Unlimited, and that is Abby Jimenez. Welcome to Off the Shelf.
Thank you for inviting me.
Of course. Thank you so much for being here. How are you doing?
I am doing amazing.
Is this your first time?
I've driven through Canada, but
Okay.
I have never really, I don't think I've ever been to Toronto.
Okay.
So it's been a really quick trip. I've done mostly media, but the food is really good.
Okay.
The people are very friendly.
Really? So
Yes.
that is correct about Canada?
It is correct. I feel
Okay.
like it's very similar to Minnesota where I'm from.
Oh, okay.
So yes, I feel very like at home here.
Amazing.
Yeah.
First order of business is talking about what happened at your event last night. Because I woke up this morning to so many TikToks about these firefighters who crashed your event. Please tell us about it.
Yes. So did an event last night at the Well.
Yeah.
Sold out event with Hannah Bonham Young, and the fire alarm started going off. And people were like, did you guys stage this? No, we did not stage this. The fire alarms went off for 10 extremely stressful minutes where we were like, do we evacuate? Do we not evacuate? It was like an auditory nightmare because I was already having a hard time hearing her because the venue's sort of echoey. And now we have fire alarms going off and we were like, do we continue? Do we leave? Like, I don't want to endanger all these people by just waiting and maybe
And
there's
was
a
no
fire.
one saying anything?
They were kind of running around.
Okay.
Like, and they told us, the people running the event were like, let's just stay put until we get more information because we think somebody just pulled an alarm, right? And so, we just decided to persevere and continue through this beeping noise. And then the firefighters pull up. There's a fire truck outside and there's this big glass window so we can see everything that's happening. And Hannah's like waving at these firemen and, she's like, come in. And we didn't think they were going to, but they did. So they come into the event and I was having a really hard time seeing from the stage because the lights are in my eyes and I was sort of at a bad angle. And my husband was actually out there in the crowd recording everything. Everyone's just losing it because firemen have just walked into my event. And then when I saw the footage after, I realized why they're losing it, because it's like 4 of the hottest firemen ever to put out fires. And I was like, you've got to be kidding me. It was just hilarious and so funny. And it is all over the internet.
Well,
it's so
what
funny.
did Hannah scream at them?
She was like, I need to ask this for the audience, but are any of you single? And then, one of them waved goodbye to me. And at the end, I was like, now that is a meet cute.
Wow.
It was just really, it was so funny.
Someone needs to write a book about that.
Well, and people are like, you should write a firefighter book. I'm like, I already did. It was The Friend Zone. So if you guys want to read a firefighter book by Abby Jimenez, hot firefighter, it's The Friend Zone.
Damn. But no fire.
No fire. It was actually, we got confirmation today. It was just a false alarm. And I've heard that for some reason, smoke alarms go off quite a bit in Toronto. It's like a thing.
Oh.
People are like, this always happens here.
Oh my, well, I'm not from Toronto. I don't know if you knew that. I'm like in Ancaster, Hamilton area. So I'm an hour away, but I just I say I'm from here because I'm here all the time, but I didn't know that.
Yeah. Apparently that's Toronto lore.
I guess if like with all the high buildings, I'm like, it's better to be safe than sorry.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yes.
Interesting. Okay. Well, second order of business. I brought you something.
Oh, you did?
So you have your bakery of Nadia's Cakes.
Yes.
So I brought you some cupcakes from like a local bakery here in
gosh.
Toronto. That's
Thank
supposed to be
you.
really good.
People love to ask me, they're like, oh my gosh, Red velvet is my absolute favorite.
Really?
Yes.
Okay, so but it's hit or miss with people.
Much.
I love a red velvet. I was like, I'm gonna go on the off chance. And then I saw that your bakery like did something chocolatey for the release of Say I Remember Me. So I was like, okay, chocolate and then red velvet is like maybe a gamble, but
yes. And you're a cake decorator, I see.
Yes, I am. Yeah. At my core, yes, I am a cake decorator. I have since like moved on a little bit, but
did you get burnt out? Because I got so burnt out doing the cakes.
A little bit. I don't know. Like it was just like I just like hit my max. I hit my ceiling on like, I feel like I have decorated every sort of cake.
Yeah.
I've drawn every sort of character and I just like, I don't know. I loved books. So I don't know, but how I bridged the gap was like I started drawing book covers on cakes.
Oh, okay.
Which was really fun. But yeah, so you got burnt out of decorating?
Yes. Or? Yeah. I started making cakes out of my house and I ended up opening up 3 inline stores. So I have a chain of bakeries. They're called Nadia Cakes.
Yeah.
And I went on Cupcake Wars and I won. I've been on a couple of Food Network shows and Fabulous Cakes on TLC. And I just got so burnt out.
Wow.
And I also turned to books. Only writing them. So yeah, it's like you just, I don't know. I feel like after a while, the creativity just sort of fizzles, especially when it's a job.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, it does. Do you ever miss it? Or
no, I know.
Really?
I mean, I still own the bakeries,
of
you
course.
know, but I'm more than happy to let other people be the creatives in there and bake the cakes. But people always ask me like, did you get tired of eating cupcakes? No. I never get tired of eating cupcakes. I don't get tired of eating my cupcakes or other people's cupcakes ever. I have like the biggest sugar addiction.
Do you, because I know some people like don't like icing. Do you like icing?
Oh, I love it.
I love icing.
I love icing.
The more the better.
Yes.
But I got sick of Dairy Queen for a little bit. I went through a phase where I was like, I think I need to stop because like that's where I was working. That's where I was decorating cakes. I went through a phase where I had a Dairy Queen cake like every year on my birthday. Yeah. And I was like, I think we need to take a step back and like
and it's just ice cream cakes.
It's just
right?
ice cream.
Well, I actually got my start. No, this is deep Abby Jimenez lore. I don't think anybody knows this, but one of my very first jobs was I worked at Baskin Robbins.
Oh my God, no way.
Yes. But to this day, ice cream cakes are still one of my absolute favorite cakes. Like a mint ice cream with chocolate cake, like one of my favorite things in the world.
What I've heard about Baskin Robbins though is like you really get an arm workout from one like scooping the ice cream and then you have to like pull some wire to cut the like, did you have to do this when you were making cakes?
Well,
like pulling a wire to cut the ice cream?
I was 16, so they didn't really let me touch the cakes.
Gotcha.
But I did get to make parfaits
and
like other cute little things. But you know, the cake decorators were like, they were like the high lords of the bakery. Like nobody, you had to be like really good, at least at my Baskin Robbins. And also, mind you, this was 30 years ago.
Right, yeah.
But I just loved walking in there and like the smell of the shop always smelled so good. And I remember eating like cherries and cones for dinner.
Well, you had to sometimes. Like it was just so easy. And now when you walk into a Baskin Robbins, you've got like the ice cream and now you've got the popcorn smell as well.
There's popcorn in there now?
Yeah, there is, at least in Canadian ones.
Oh, I don't know if there's popcorn in our ice cream shops. Oh my gosh, now I have to check.
Yeah, there's like Colonel's popcorn in the locations at least around my house.
Okay, yeah, I need to check on that because now I am intrigued.
Yeah. Oh, I don't know. Maybe it is
like
just. Do you guys know what? Like, do you know what Colonel's popcorn is?
No.
Oh, okay. Then it's probably a Canadian thing.
And I'm not.
It's
okay. See, now I wish I knew because I would have totally scoped out a Baskin Robbins to check out the ice cream popcorn situation.
Okay, well, next time you come here, I'll bring some to you.
And I will definitely come back. If Canada wants me back, I will come back in a second.
Okay, amazing.
Say less. I will be here.
We can take these away and we can put them off camera. Thank you. Okay, third order of business is at the beginning of every episode, we talk about like the last book that we pulled off the shelf, like your current reader, like the last book that you read.
I'm actually reading. So when I'm not blurbing books, I like to read nonfiction. So right now I'm actually reading, I think it's called The Glass Castle, and it's a memoir. I'm listening to it on Audible and absolutely love it. Love it. It's the most interesting story. Like if you like the show Shameless.
I do.
Yes.
It's the later seasons got too dark for me. So I like the early on ones.
If you like Shameless or if you liked Educated by Tara Westover.
Oh, I haven't read it yet.
It is the same, same thread. And it actually was almost too much. I was almost like, okay, I don't know if I can do 2 of these books back to back because they go over some pretty tough, frustrating issues, I guess you can say. But I'm obsessed now. Like I was like, I'm going to give it an hour and see if I can get into it. And it's such a good book. So fascinating the life this woman had.
I don't tend to read a lot of nonfiction. I'm very picky about like my memoirs that I read. But the last book that I read was last night I finished Fearless by Lauren Roberts, which is the like last book in that trilogy. I don't know if you've read it, but the last book, like for a YA romantasy, it packed a punch.
Everybody's talking about it.
Oh my gosh. I was crying like midway through, 75% through at the end. I was like, I should not. Why am I crying over a YA romantasy book? Like it's never happened before. But I loved it. Like it was such a good, like, like when you close a book and it's just like satisfying on how it ended. Although some people are like a little like, how could you do this to me?
Yeah.
I thought I liked how it ended.
Yeah. I've been seeing all the chatter about it. The last romance book that I read was Not So Lucky. I got the audiobook from Trelina Pucci. That is extremely spicy. I
don't know that one.
It is a why choose.
It's a what?
It's a why choose romance.
What does that mean?
It means why choose just one man.
Oh,
yes.
Okay. I've never heard of that.
It is spicy. Trelina always does really good spice. And then I am waiting for Julie Soto's Rose and Chains.
Ooh, yeah, that'd be good.
I'm like begging her for an early listening copy of the audiobook in a very undignified way. I'm like, give it to me. And then Kennedy Ryan's new book. I want that one on audio as soon as that comes out.
I want to get into Kennedy Ryan. I just need to be in like a good mind space because I know her books are a little bit on like the darker side. Not darker side, but they deal with like I read
real
like
issues.
very light. They deal with real issues where I tend to read more like a light and fluffy romance. But
I would say they're kind of on par with the depth of my books.
Oh, okay.
Yes, but they don't
I can
have
deal with that.
They don't have much as like the rom-com side of it.
Okay.
But her heroes are phenomenal. She writes these alpha male heroes that are somehow also cinnamon rolls and just yeah, and it's this balance, and I don't know how she does it, but they are just so swoony. And every single one of her books is like that. These very strong, masculine, but not toxic masculine men that are just down bad for these women. And I love her.
You might have just convinced me. Where should I start? Because Long Shot? Hook Shot?
I personally really like her newest series.
Okay.
So, and I'm going to completely murder. It's funny because I can picture the cover in my head, but the titles are blurry.
It's okay. When we edit, I will put it in. It's okay. But okay, her new series is good. Because I really want to get into her books.
Yes, she is amazing. I cannot give her enough praise. Like Kennedy Ryan is amazing. And not only is she an amazing author, but I just love her as a human. She's every year she does the Lift for Autism auction to raise funds for autism support. And I always donate. She's an incredible human being all the way around.
Oh my God. Okay, good to know. I'm really now truly inspired to start reading her book.
Yes, read her and then message me the whole time.
I will. I will send you updates as I go. Okay, I saw this on social media the other day. Is it true you write all of your books on your phone?
Yes, the internet is so shaken by this.
I'm fascinated by it.
Yeah, either people were like, they were just floored by it. So yes. So one thing that I say is I just graduated high school and then went right into retail and food service, right? Like I did not go to college. I do not have a degree. I did not have a blog. I'm not a journalist. I had like no writing background. And I feel like because of that, I did not have, I guess, a conventional method, or routine on how to write. I just write in a way that feels very organic to me. And oftentimes I'm just out somewhere and I get an idea and I have my phone. So I'll just sit on a park bench and write on my phone, or I'll float in a tube on the lake and write on my phone. And I write, I would say like a good 75% of my first drafts only. Because once I'm in edits, I need to have a laptop because those come on Word docs. And I just write on a Google Doc on my phone. And some of everybody's favorite scenes were written this way. Like the ring light scene from Part of Your World was written while I was floating on a lake in Minnesota on a tube on my phone. There's a scene in Just for the Summer, and it's everybody's favorite passage in the book. It's where Johnston says that the love stories have sold us the wrong thing, right? I wrote that at the grocery store. I was with my husband. We were grocery shopping, and he was bagging up the groceries. We were standing at the checkout, and I was just looking at him, and I was thinking, this is what romance is. It's this. It's not the moonlit walks. It's not, the love songs playing. It's not the romantic candlelit dinners. It's this. It's where you're with somebody you love, just doing the mundane things, and he's bagging the groceries so that you don't have to do it. And it's just those gentle, soft moments of companionship with somebody you love. And I'm literally standing there watching my husband bag groceries, and I'm writing this chapter in my book on my phone. And it's one of the most beloved chapters in all of my books. I mean, it's just, people love it.
Are you writing in like chronological order then? Or are you kind of jumping around?
Most of the time, and I would say like a solid like 98% of the time, I'm writing in chronological order. Now, there are times where I'll think of a line that I really like, or a concept for the book, or, you know, a theme, and I will jot that down. This was something that I had jotted down and then, you know, eventually worked it in towards the end. But for the most part, I just write chronologically.
Do your thumbs ever get tired?
They don't.
Really?
And you know what? My hands never get tired signing books either. People are always like,
well, I was going to ask you that too. Yeah.
They don't. I don't know what. Let me tell you that these hands are the only part of this body that are an athlete.
Wow.
Just the rest. Like, I can sign thousands of books in one sitting, and I never get tired. My hands never ache, and my thumbs never hurt.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
Given the option of like the editing process, would you still stay on your phone? Is the laptop like a nuisance now, or is it?
You know, I'm so used to reading my book and working on my book on my phone that it actually feels like a part of the process. But I do find that reading my book, you know, on a laptop once I'm in the edit process, and then also reading the book out loud, that is an important part of my process, because I will catch things while I'm writing when I'm editing on my laptop and when I'm reading out loud that I don't notice on my phone for some reason.
Gotcha.
So it helps me to jump to these different, you know, I guess formats of writing. But you know, the Word doc doesn't, like the Google Doc, when you're writing on your phone, when you open your laptop, it's all there. Like it transfers seamlessly. The Word doc does not do that.
Okay.
So when my editor sends me her edits, now I officially have to be on a laptop. So if you see me somewhere on a laptop, I'm probably working on edits. Or if I want to sit down and really crank out, you know, some big word count and it's convenient for me, I will sit down and I'll do that on my laptop.
Okay.
But it was funny because when I wrote Yours Truly won Book of the Year, won the Lolly Award for Book of the Month. Yeah. And they came to my house and they were like, okay, so they made this video, right?
Yeah.
And they were like, show us, you know, your writing space, show us your desk. And I was like,
and you just pull out your phone.
I know. I was like, I don't have anything to show you. I just write here in my living room, like on my phone. And, you know, I'm building an office for myself now.
Okay.
I've written 8 books because my 8th book is already done.
Okay.
My next year's book is already written. And I have done all of this with no desk, no office, no designated writing space. Wow. And we are actually doing a remodel on our house because I'm like, this is ridiculous. I think that I deserve a space, right?
Yes.
Like my house is very loud. I have these dogs that I'm famous for, and Tess, my dog, is very loud. And my daughter Maya is playing the piano or playing the accordion or whatever instrument she's got her hands on.
Yeah.
And my living room is like an international airport. And I'm like, I need a writing space. So we are building me a writing space with a beautiful window that looks out over the wetland.
Wow. Okay.
But there is no desk in my writing space because I will continue to write either on my phone, in my quiet space, or on a laptop on my lap.
In your home, is that where you feel like most inspired to write? Or is it like a coffee shop, or does it really not matter?
You know, I find inspiration sort of everywhere, which is why writing on my phone is great. Because a lot of times, you know, I live near this park that I love to walk through. And I'll take these epic walks in the summer that are like, you know, a couple hours long, and I will write while I'm out there.
Wow.
You know, or you know, like I said, I'll float on the lake and I'll write on my phone while I float on the lake, or just wherever I am. I think like the real message is there are no rules. There's only best practices. So just do whatever works for you.
Yeah.
You know, I remember reading or watching a documentary about Juno, and Diablo, who wrote Juno, typed it like this with her fingers. And I remember being so inspired by that, because I was like, how can you write? That's one of my favorite movies. It's such a good movie. How can you write that like this? Because there's no rules. It doesn't matter. If you're creative and you're a good storyteller, you can do it however is convenient for you. Just do it, you know?
Fair.
The first draft's only job is to exist.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah, you just have to start. And that's what I often tell people even going into content. I'm like, just start. Doesn't really matter. Just like rip off that Band-Aid, get over like what other people are thinking, and just worry about yourself. And the first time you do something, it's probably going to suck, but you need to start it.
Yes. You just got to do it and get it on the paper. You know, you can circle back and fix things later.
Yeah.
But yeah, I write on my phone. Here it is. This is my phone with my little stuntman mic sock pocket.
And it's a Samsung. I saw people in the comments of the video. They were like, oh, like I love that she's a Samsung girl.
Yeah, I am so not a technology person. And to be honest, I would probably write on whatever phone my husband programmed and handed to me.
Okay, I see. Okay.
And then like for me to change, like it's too much.
Gotcha. Yeah, no, fair. Why don't change what works. Don't fix what's not broken.
Yeah, I can't even like program my Bluetooth. My kids make fun of me because I don't know how to use the remote to the TV. I'm like, how do you use this? I can't even use my own remote in my TV.
It's okay. It's okay. Let's get into your books then. So I read Just for the Summer first, like transparently read all of your books out of order because Book of the Month had Just for the Summer as their pick, like last, I think April,
yes,
probably. And I was like, cute cover, unique synopsis. I was like, I recognized your name and I had thought this was like a brand new series and I fell in love with the book. And then I read Yours Truly and that has become my favorite book. Probably like of all time. It's definitely in my top 5. And then I read Part of Your World. But for the listeners' sake, we're going to start with Part of Your World. This has an age gap romance in it.
Yes.
But not an age gap romance that I think is like, it's definitely not something that I'm used to because predominantly age gap is like older guy, younger girl. What made you kind of like want to reverse that trope a little bit?
You know, I had this vision. Okay, I guess it needs to start with where the little moment of inception was for this book. I had this vision of a woman driving somewhere and her getting laid over just one night in a place and then having to move on, but her not being able to forget the man that she met there. And I just knew that I wanted her to be, that I wanted there not just to be an age gap, but there to be a social gap, a financial gap. I wanted there to be this, very big power difference between the two of them. And I just always knew that I wanted him to be younger. But what's amazing to me is just how well these two work together. Like they are just meant for each other because even though there's so many differences between them in education and, how much money they make and life experiences and sophistication level, they are both innately caregivers, at the base of it. And have their own legacies. Yeah. They are the heir to both of their kingdoms. Yeah. And I had so much fun drawing that.
Yeah. I often see like in people's reviews, they're like, oh, like I loved the character development throughout this book. I'm not one to like normally pull that out of a book. I'm more like the chemistry, like other things. But Alexis's like just the way she developed over this book, because I was listening to it as an audiobook and I remember she like I loved her. She aggravated me at some points when she couldn't tell her family about Daniel. I was like, please stop doing this. Like this book provoked so much emotion in me because I wanted her to tell her family. Like I understood, but I was also like, just please. Like he's such a good guy. Like he's a golden retriever who lives on a farm and everything. But that end scene of when she like stands up and announces to her family, they're at an event, I think. Yes. And her standing up at the end and just like that made that book 5 stars for me. Yes. Like just like how she not even like I was going to say picked herself up. That's not what I'm going for. But just like stopped caring so much.
It's the growth. Yeah. And you have to have that frustrating, like you can be frustrated with the character as long as there's the growth at the end.
Absolutely.
Like that's what makes the payoff so great about it. When when they finally have their big aha moment and they're, they come into their own, it makes it more satisfying. I feel if you're sort of somewhat frustrated with them throughout the rest of the book. Because that's the payoff, right? Yeah. Like the stakes have to be high like that. Yeah. And I think too, Alexis was in an mentally abusive relationship, not just with Neil, but also with her parents. Yeah. And that cycle of abuse, I think it can be hard to understand, especially if you haven't lived it. And I think that the people that have lived it felt very seen reading that and maybe even felt empowered at the end, realizing that you can get out of that cycle and break away from it and, go and have a more healthy, less toxic dynamic with your found family. Yeah. Maybe sometimes your real family isn't it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. This book, I love all your books. I don't think any book has like really provoked so much. Like even, yes, like Alexis aggravated me to no ends at some points, but that's how I knew I was like, Abby's a good writer because like when you're like putting this much like effort and emotion into a character, like that means like they're built so great and they have this great development and growth at the end that you felt so connected with them. And I don't have, like, I'm not in that same family dynamic as her, and yet I was still able to feel what she was going through. And I think what you just mentioned about how these characters make you feel seen, so we can kind of transition into yours truly, which was my absolute favorite book of yours.
I love Jacob so much.
Oh my gosh. I don't think that romance books, with the exception of yours, portray anxiety that well. That's a broad statement. I haven't read any where they portray anxiety as well as you did in your book, because oftentimes I feel like the character is announced to have anxiety, or it's in the synopsis, and then it's kind of like talked about here and there, and then by the end of the book it's a non-issue. We don't often talk about it. But with your book, I felt like his anxiety was not forgotten and it wasn't thrown in your face. It was just there, and I felt like it was interwoven in this story and who he was as a character and part of their romance. How were you able to craft the anxiety in this book?
It is my own.
Okay.
I deeply understand anxiety. I always have advisors, beta readers, and sensitivity readers on my books, my most recent books in particular. And I had 3 mental health advisors on that book, and they all came back with no notes. They were like, no, you got this. And when I was writing Jacob's anxiety, there was a moment where I was like, people are going to hate this. Like, he is so in his head. This man is just going off on this complete rumination tangent in his own mind. And people are going to find this so tedious to read and so exhausting to read, maybe because I found it exhausting to write. Okay. And they didn't. They loved it. They loved it. They were like, this is me. Like, people felt so seen and validated reading Jacob's internals. I just love him. I wish he was real. Oh my gosh. There were certain scenes in this book where, like, and I've said this before, like, a self-help book is great. There are some romance books, this one included, that help a bunch more. Yes. Because the little things that he had done and the way he feels anxiety wasn't telling me that there was something wrong with my own anxiety. Yeah. And it wasn't saying that I need to fix this. It was saying that other people are experiencing what you are feeling, and that is okay. So even the little things where he would like leave early to go somewhere so he could sit in his car before he went inside. Mm-hmm. I do that pretty much everywhere I'm going. Yeah. Like did it this morning. Scope out the restaurant. Scope out the menu, scope out the parking was another big thing. And that's one thing, truthfully, I am trying to work on. I was like, especially when I come to Toronto, like I'm used to like Hamilton, you can park wherever you want and you don't have to pay. You come to Toronto and I'm like, I don't really want to park underground. Let me see if I can find an above ground parking lot. Like I love a green P because they have the app. Like I'm so like I'm just so specific about that. And reading that small little scene in the book, I was like, oh my God, I feel so seen. Yeah. That parking situation is so real though. Yeah. My husband, my husband travels with me as my assistant. Yeah. So I can just shut off my brain and not have to worry about the parking and the Ubers, and because all of those things stress me out so much. Yeah. But I think more than just making people feel seen is you either A, felt really seen reading this book because you identify with the anxiety, or you B, know somebody that has anxiety and you learned how to care for them. And it's not that hard to care for somebody that struggles with this. Yeah. It's being aware that they get overstimulated, or that they need to take breaks, or that they need to know the details of things that are coming up so that they can be more comfortable attending those things. Like just that small awareness of the education that I passed on in that book to people who may not experience that firsthand, I think was so invaluable. Yeah. And I try and do that with all of my books. Deliver messages in a way that does not feel like you are being preached at, or you're being fed information, just in a way that's very organic. Yeah. So that you walk away from the book feeling like you have learned something, or maybe with a touch more empathy than you came in with. Yeah, absolutely. And I love that my books can do that. Oh, and also I've had several people donate kidneys because they read yours truly. Holy. Yes, I think there's been 3 now. Oh my God. Read the book and were like, I want to do this, and donated a kidney to somebody. And reached out to you and told you that. Reached out to me to tell me. Yep. This one woman donated a kidney. I want to say the young man was only 19 years old. And she was talking to somebody about my book, talking about the kidney donation. And she's like, I've been thinking about donating a kidney. And this woman said, well, I actually know somebody that needs one. And she got tested. She was a match. She donated her kidney to a 19-year-old boy with in kidney failure.
Oh my gosh.
Yes, I'm like cry whenever I think about
That's
it.
making, yeah.
Yes.
I never, like, I was going to ask you, would you ever, did that ever cross your mind? But there's no way it would have. What, like.
You know what, to be honest, I hoped it would.
Wow.
Because I don't think people realize that you can be a living kidney donor and just can go on and have a completely normal life with one kidney.
Wow.
I think that people just don't consider it. They don't think about it. You can donate half of your liver and it grows back.
Yeah.
And save somebody that needs a liver transplant. Like there's ways that you can donate as a living donor, literally save somebody's life. So I try and work that in. When you look back, you'll notice that there's mentions of kidney donation or blood donation or through all of my books. It's something I've always been passionate about.
Wow.
But when I had my own experience with chronic kidney disease in 2020, really just drove home to me.
Wow. Okay.
One day I might need a kidney.
Yeah.
I might end up on dialysis and I might be the person who needs it. So I love that I can educate people through my books and in all things.
Yeah. To go back a little bit, I didn't know there was mental health advisors for books.
Yes.
How does that work?
What I do, it's not like mental health advisors for books is not like a job.
Sorry. Yeah.
But like what I do, maybe it's a job.
Yeah.
But I reach out to my reader group and I say, hey, is there anybody in the group that would like to, advise me on this book in exchange for getting your name in the acknowledgments, getting a really early copy of the book, and of course getting to read the book like a full year and a half sometimes before the book comes out.
Yeah.
And I always get way more volunteers than I can possibly use. And I will vet them. And then, usually it's not like a huge commitment. Oftentimes it's just me sending a paragraph. Like, does this sound correct?
Yeah.
Or sometimes it's me talking through, the idea for the book and then them giving me their feedback. And so I can formulate who these characters are going to be. Karen Flood has really been probably my primary. She is actually here in Canada. She's in Vancouver, and she's a psychologist, and she's just been instrumental in helping me shape some of these characters and some of the things that I, want to talk about, making sure that I get them, that I portray things in a way that, one, is not harmful, because I never want to harm anybody reading my books. But, in a way that's accurate and, feels authentic to the story. So she helps me a ton. But yeah, and I do that with all of the themes in my book. So, for example, for Say You'll Remember Me, I had a memory care advisor that advised me on this book, to make sure that I was depicting things properly, that the caregiver aspect was done well. And, I don't always get it right. And I always put this disclaimer at the back of the book. If there's ever anything in the book that I get wrong or do badly, it's never the fault of my advisors. Yeah. It's either, it just got missed or it's me misunderstanding the material. But I do try. Yeah. I always try.
And they had no notes about yours truly.
Not about the mental health rep. No, they were like, no, you got this.
You really hit it home. Because like once I finish the book, I go and I like go through the Goodreads reviews, and I was like, we're all feeling the same thing. Whether or not it, like you said, like A, you're feeling what Jacob's feeling, or B, someone. Like it really hit home, and I think that's why I loved it so much. We can go on to Just for the Summer now. That quote went viral on social media.
Which one?
The one, well, a lot, but the long one about how they got love wrong in the movies. Yeah. And that love and romance and platonic love, which is another thing that I had really come to love about your books, is the platonic love is so strong. Like it's not always romantic love. But where did that quote come from? I know you had mentioned it beginning of this episode a little bit, but like how did that come to be? Did it all come in one chunk? Did it like flow through?
Well, I was at the grocery store with my husband and was watching him bag groceries. Yeah. And I just was like, I have a really great marriage. Like I am deeply in love with my husband. I've been married over 20 years. People always ask me, is Mr. Jimenez, the model for all of your heroes? And I gave actually an example at the event last night. Yeah. They were like, are there any scenarios that you have with Mr. Jimenez that you've written into your books? And it's not that I write things that Mr. Jimenez has done into my books, but rather every great thing that a hero has done in my books is something Mr. Jimenez coded. Like the other day, I was in New York and we accidentally took an Uber to the wrong location. We were driving to meet my husband for a podcast. He was already there at the location because I had another stop before that. And he was waiting for me, and we got dropped off at the wrong address. And it was raining. It was going to take, it was a 7-minute walk to where we were going. And it was also 7-minute wait to get an Uber.
Yeah.
So we're like, we should just
Classic New York.
Let's just walk, right? So we're walking in the rain. You know, I've got my raincoat on. And I called my husband. I said, hey, we got dropped off at the wrong location. We're walking to you. And hung up with him, you know, and I'm walking, and all of a sudden, a minute and a half later into my 7-minute walk, there's an umbrella over my head. My husband ran from the location I was walking to with an umbrella to hold an umbrella over my head. Yeah. And he wouldn't get under the umbrella with me. He was like, no, I don't want you getting wet. He's like, I'm fine. And he's like holding this umbrella, and he's wearing a wool sweater, you know, and it's like, your sweater's going to shrink. And he's like, I don't care. He's like, I don't want you wet, you know? And it's like that's what I mean when I say that love is in the folds of everyday life, that the love story sold us the wrong thing. That is what love looks like. Yes. That is what romance looks like to me. Yeah. Is just the everyday small acts of kindness, small acts of consideration, you know, just bagging groceries with, you know, for somebody that you love at the grocery store, just going grocery shopping and hanging out and doing the little things. And I wrote that scene on my phone at the grocery store in line. So for anybody that thinks that you can't write, you know, quality, you know, noteworthy content on your phone, literally wrote some of everybody's favorite stuff on this Samsung right here.
It's the quiet displays of love.
Yes.
That are just like, you don't need flowers and roses. Like, you need little things. You need holding the umbrella, and things like that. And I think that's so
the little things that she doesn't even know about.
Yeah.
You know, the small things that you do just because you love her. Yeah. You know? Yeah. I find that to be the most romantic thing of all. And I'm such an acts of service girl. Like
that is your love language?
Yes. I love acts of service. Like over everything else. You know?
What's at the bottom? What do you not care for?
Gifts.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Like I'm just not, I don't know. I mean, yeah, I would have to say it's probably gifts. Like I'm not the kind of person that like a man could show up with some like, you know, giant, you know, diamond ring and I'm swooning over it. You know, for me, it's the acts of service. Yeah. It's, you know, the words of affirmation. Like that's what I like. And that's why my heroes are like that.
Yes. Yeah. I am the same with gifts. I get so awkward opening gifts too. Like I just like, whether I love it or I hate it, it doesn't matter. Like I just get, people are looking at me, and that's why I don't love my birthday sometimes too. I'm just like, ooh, I don't know what to do with all these eyes on me opening something, and I want to give a good reaction. I also am not good at giving good reactions. I'm just like, can I open these alone? Obviously
feel like that's not. Such an introvert thing though. I'm like, do not sing to me. Don't even look at me. That's
why I've stopped going out for like dinner on my birthday, because I was like, someone in my family is going to pull a fast one on me and go tell the waiter that it's my birthday, and I will melt into the ground if someone sings to me at a restaurant. I cannot deal with it.
Yeah. You know what's so funny though, is I really do want that little free dessert though.
Well, that's the thing.
I know. Do not look at me though. Don't look at me. You could light a candle. I will quietly blow it out. But if you sing to me, I'm going to be so embarrassed. I feel like that's just such an introvert
free
thing.
Dessert part is true. I did kind of forget about that one.
And sometimes it's a dessert they like don't give, like that's not even on the menu. Yes, it's a special dessert. And like sometimes they write on the plate with chocolate. And I just, you know, I'm easily bought.
Yeah. Yeah.
I do love that.
There's a line and it's okay. Another thing about Just for the Summer is the synopsis is built off of like a Reddit story. Yeah. So when I first read this book, I was not on Reddit, didn't even know what a subreddit was. So when I was reading it and it was like I24M, I was like, what? I'm so confused. Since then, I've become so obsessed with Reddit, and I listened to another podcast called Smosh Reads Reddit Stories. Yeah. And they literally just read Reddit stories, and I love it. So I have a Reddit story for us to read and then to decide if they're the asshole or not. And it's book-based. Okay. So I thought it'd be fun, and it's relatively short. Early on in our relationship, my boyfriend lent me the first book of Brandon Sanderson's Stormlight Archives. It's a very lengthy book, paperback version he lent me. It is 1,280 pages. When he brought it over, I incorrectly assumed that it was a copy that no one had read because the spine of the book was completely unbent and it looked like it could have come directly off the bookstore shelf. I read and enjoyed the book. When I returned it, he commented on how rough I am on books. I was confused because I thought I had returned it in good condition. None of the pages were ripped or marked or written on. I used a bookmark to mark my place the whole time I was reading it. Turns out what he meant was that there was pages in the spine of the book where you could tell that the book had been opened, which I thought was normal normal after reading a paperback book, especially one that was over 1,200 pages. I asked last night if I could borrow the next book in the series. He said no because I trashed the last one. I mean, fair enough. Is he allowed to have rules? He is allowed to have rules for his things, but I'm curious what other people think. Is it reasonable? Is it a reasonable expectation that someone not crease the spine of a 1,200 page mass market paperback? Am I the asshole?
I don't think she's the asshole.
No, I don't think so either.
I don't think so either.
Now, what if someone, like, how are you about creasing the spine in the book?
I believe that if you have a book, you should read it. Yeah. And that's just part of the wear and tear of reading a book. Like, that's so stressful to me to read a book, to try and not do anything to it or damage it. Like, that book is going with me everywhere. It's going to be in my purse. It's going to be in the bathtub. It's going to get wet. Like, that's just, it's fate. You know what I mean? And that's, if he felt that way about the book, he should have told her from the onset, hey, FYI, I don't like the spines of my book. You know what I mean? So she could decide whether or not she wanted to get it on ebook or something so she could read it without damaging it.
Yeah. So the conclusion was no one is the asshole in that one.
Oh, really?
Yeah, no. But I don't like the spines cracked in my book.
And see, that's totally fair to not want your spine cracked. But if he had that expectation, he should have told her. And the other thing that kills me too is when, and I hear this so often, but people are like, I loaned out my signed copy of one of your books and my friend lost it.
Oh, no.
And it's like, in that case, it's like, okay, you as the person who had a signed copy should not be loaning that out.
Yeah, no.
Because if you loan it out, you were putting the book at risk of being lost, damaged, eaten by a puppy, dropped in a bathtub. Like, I guess what I'm saying is there's a certain level of responsibility that comes with giving a book to somebody and knowing that the book may not come back to you in the condition that you loaned it out in, and accidents happen. A book is something that's being held in your hand. It's being taken places. It oftentimes doesn't, it's not just sitting on somebody's nightstand. They're taking it wherever they're going. They're taking it on vacation. And there's a risk. There's an inherent risk there.
Absolutely. Which is why I will lend out my books sometimes. I'm more inclined, if my mom wants to read one of my books, and I love my mother dearly, book comes back barely legible. Book gets left out in the sun, but book gets left out at the pool. So sometimes I will buy her the same copy.
There you go.
And then just maybe not tell her that. She'll be listening to this episode, so she'll know. But even when it comes to people lending me books, I was like, I'm just going to go buy it, I think. Or I'm going to get it from the library or something. Because I don't want the pressure of even if you don't care about the book, there is a chance something can happen to it. And if I'm the one who damages my book, it's fine, but I don't want to do that to someone else.
Yes.
So anyways, that was that Reddit story. Okay, let's jump into your newest book, Say You'll Remember Me. When did the first spark come for this book?
I think the moment of inception for this book actually took place in Just for the Summer. So in Just for the Summer, there's a scene. It's Emma and Justin's first date. They go to Hot Plate, and Emma notices a woman sitting on a bus bench, and the woman looks confused and disheveled. And I wanted to write this into the book because I wanted Justin to see Emma. I wanted him to see her beautiful empathy. I wanted him to see how she notices things, and kind of see her at work as a nurse, because he's not going to be able to go into the hospital and see her doing her job, right? So I originally wrote it for that purpose, to sort of deliver that message to the reader, and decided at some point, wouldn't it be interesting if the next book was about that, about the woman on the bus bench? So I went back and I edited it, because originally the woman was much older. She was an older lady. I edited it to make her Lisa, to make her younger. And I added Samantha going to pick up her mother, running through the restaurant to pick up her mom. And, added in some things that were very inherently, Say You'll Remember Me, like the mom saying that she thought she was going to Santa Monica. That was where she was headed, which would be true for what her memory would be, because she doesn't realize she's in Minnesota. So that was kind of the moment that I knew I wanted to write about a caregiver, that I wanted to write about memory loss. Then I got a memory care advisor and, did a ton of just talking it over with her, what would cause this? What are some of the challenges that the family would encounter when experiencing this? And I knew that I also wanted to write a long distance relationship. I'd never done that before. And I knew that I wanted them to be the perfect match for each other, just right out of the gate.
Yeah.
and then be separated by the distance
Yeah.
and by the things going on in their own lives to keep them apart. So, and I always want to write a veterinarian hero.
It's so
like
good.
handsome man, baby animals, like you can't go wrong. I've been wanting to write a veterinarian for so long, and I just, one book sort of leads into the next, and, the decision is made for me. Like when I wrote Part of Your World and Alexis was a doctor, and then I decided I want the next book to be Bree's book. So she's automatically going to be a doctor. And I wanted her to meet the guy that she fell in love with at work. So Jacob's automatically a doctor. And then the next, you know what I mean? They just sort of like led into each other. So I was really excited to finally be freed up to write this hero that I've been wanting to write for so long. And we're going to get the friends for the next book. So this is a new series, of course, still connected to the other books, in the same universe. But we are going to get Chris's story next, and then Mike's story after that.
Okay.
And we are getting, in the next books, Toilet King is coming back in a big way.
Wait, what is?
The Toilet King, the billboard guy from Just for the Summer, the billboard that is outside of Justin's window, the Toilet King.
Okay.
Yes, he is going to be back in a big way. We're going to find ourselves sort of back in the Part of Your World, universe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you sat down with a memory care specialist before you started writing, or like throughout?
Both.
Okay.
Both.
Okay.
So I wanted to make sure that Lisa's decline felt accurate to where she, because I have never, my one of my grandparents did have memory care issues towards the end, but I was not their caregiver.
Yeah.
I didn't experience it for very long the way that, Samantha's family is going to experience it. So I wanted to make sure that I got everything correct. There was like a scene that I wanted to write where maybe at the end, just to give the characters, more of like a happy ever after, where the mom suddenly remembers her daughter, because through the whole book, the mom does not remember Samantha. And my memory care advisor was like, that would not be accurate. That would never happen,
Wow. Okay.
Where she is in her decline, where you need her to be in the book to get these other scenes that you've written, it would not be accurate for her to suddenly remember her daughter's name. Okay. And so I couldn't write that in the book because that wasn't true to the story. Okay. And there was a lot of things like that. I learned so much about memory caring and caregiving throughout the course of writing this. And it's so hard. One thing I keep hearing from people about this book is how seen it has made people in long distance relationships feel. And how seen caregivers have felt.
Yeah.
I think, this is the kind of book that sparks a lot of discussion. I wanted to write the family very, very messily. I wanted it to not be black and white. I wanted it to be, almost like the family dynamics to be the thing that people would talk about in the book club.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, what do you think about this happen, or this happening, or the way they handled this. Like, I wanted that to be the part of the book that sparked, that was thought-provoking, and sparked discussion. So I had a really good time writing the family dynamics in this. And then just Xavier is just like the most sweetest cinnamon roll boyfriend ever. He's one of my favorites. He's like up there with Jacob, honestly.
Oh, he's so good.
Yeah.
Where did you get the idea or like inspo? So she runs the marketing for a mustard company.
Yes.
Where did that come from? Because that's random.
I like for my characters to have interesting jobs.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want them to always do the same jobs again and again.
Yeah.
And I just thought it would be, a nice way to insert humor, to have her be a social media manager. And also, she's so different from Xavier. He's so like just reserved and very much not online. This is a man who's, just very not aware of any of the pop culture things that are happening around him. And she's the polar opposite. She's a social media manager. She's chronically online. She's very in the now, loves pop culture. And, so does her brother Tristan. So they share that. But, I love the juxtaposition between the two. And it was just so fun to write a social media manager. I am also a social media manager, for Nadia. I've had my own viral situations online. And it's so funny because last night, the firefighter situation that happened at my Toronto event, all I could think was Samantha would be like, we have been blessed by the TikTok gods. I pray every day.
Everything is content these days.
I pray for this sort of organic mustard engagement every day of my life. It was so Samantha coded.
Do you have a favorite scene that like in the book that was to write?
Oh, you know what scene I actually really liked writing was, there was two of them, and they're kind of very serious scenes.
Okay.
But I like the scene where where Xavier is talking to his mom because the gaslighting in that scene.
Yeah.
And I feel like I feel like I did a really good job writing it because if you only knew the mom and you only heard the mom side of it, you would actually probably believe the mom, when she's telling her friends about her ungrateful son, and how he, punched his dad in the face. And I hope we can talk spoilers.
Oh, yeah, that's fine.
Okay. Like how he punched his dad in the face and his dad lost 2 teeth. And, it truly does draw Xavier as the bad guy.
Yeah.
But we, as the reader, know that that's not true. And I really loved just how manipulative and how gaslighty it was, and infuriating that scene was for the reader to read that and to see how unfairly Xavier had been treated, but also to see the other side of it and how these people, these, narcissistic, toxic parents can spin things to make you the bad guy. So I really liked writing that scene. And then the other scene that I really liked writing was after the funeral when the family is arguing and, they're talking about what to do with mom now that, what's happened has happened. I loved that dynamic. Like I'm just fascinated by family dynamics. And I really love reading scenes like that where you can kind of see each person's point, even if you don't fully agree or disagree, but you can kind of see you're almost torn, like the am I the asshole, right?
Yeah.
Like I feel like those are the scenes that provoke discussion and provoke thought, and really make you sit back and like ask yourself, like, how would you handle it in that situation? Whose side would you be on?
Yeah.
There's the thing with the dad in the book that I know some people were a little torn on, but it's like, he makes a point and you can see that this is a man who loves his wife. There's scenes that are written, very nuanced scenes, like when the wedding ring is found and he's sitting there on the porch and he's just staring at the ring in his hand. You can see that this is a man who is completely broken by what has happened to his wife. He is living his nightmare. He says she never took this off ever. And really the wedding ring in the palm of his hand is the symbol of the fact that his wife is no longer there. She's there, but she's not.
Yeah.
The person that was married to him has somewhat ceased to exist. And, it's all those little nuanced things that I really enjoy putting into my books and, the things that spark discussion.
So the book is layered with like laughing moments, crying moments. I read this book. I got an arc of it, I think like last November. I read it and I sobbed and I laughed and I smiled. How do you weave like these deep moments in with like while still keeping it like rom-com vibes?
I write my books through the same lens that I live my life.
Yeah.
I think you can laugh at even the darkest moments. Sometimes you should laugh at even the darkest moments. And sometimes something really stressful happens, like a fire alarm goes off during your event and you don't know what to do and you're overstimulated and it's an auditory nightmare. But then some hot firemen show up and then it's suddenly funny. I think that those things can happen. And it's just very easy for me to incorporate that in my books. And people always ask me, how do you do it? I always say I would be the worst person to teach a class, like the absolute worst person to teach a writing class because I do not know. Okay. I write my books in my head. I think about them for months and months and months before I write anything down. I never frame out my chapters. I don't write chapter summaries.
Really?
I do not write a synopsis. I write a synopsis for my editor once I've done writing the book in my head so that she can read it and we can talk about it. And then after I give it to her, I throw it away. So it's like, I can't give you any writing tips that are going to be useful to you because I just sort of do things organically and, in a way that's just very natural to me. So I couldn't tell you how I incorporate the funny stuff other than that's just sort of who I am as a person. And so for that reason, it's easy for me to write those things into the book.
So there's no like sticky notes, no writing. No. It's just the phone.
It is
phone to the laptop.
It is just me, my phone, my thumbs, and my brain.
And the grocery store sometimes.
Yes.
Yeah.
There is no chapter outline. There's no rough, there's some authors that write super detailed chapter outlines for their chapters. And I just think about my book. I think about it for months and months and months and months. And by the time I sit down to write it, the entire story is already written in my head. that's why when I finally sit down to write it, if I were to time, and there's been times where I've, sat down and I've written a book consecutively, I wrote every day. I can write a book in 2.5 to 3 months. I wrote Part of Your World in 2.5 months.
Okay.
Yours truly probably the same time frame. Oftentimes I have to, especially lately because I book tour so much.
Yeah.
But I'll take a couple weeks off and then get back to it. But if you cram it all together, it takes me about 3 months to write a book. But that is because I've already written it in my head.
How are you remembering everything?
I just do.
You just do. Okay.
It's so sometimes I'm like, this cannot, I have the worst memory with everything else. I walk in a room and I'm like, what am I doing in here? I'm like, how is this the same brain that I'm writing books with? But I just do. I remember every single thing. And before, I have a rule that I will not start writing until I know those characters inside and out. Because when you think about it, you can't even write a single scene unless you know those people. Like, let's say that you've got your characters sitting in a cafe, okay? But you don't know those characters. How are you even going to write that scene? Is one of them vegetarian? What are they ordering to drink? Are they having coffee? Do they drink caffeine? Do they drink tea? Who's paying for this bill and why? Why are they there? What kind of restaurant would they go to? How are they dressed? How are they dressed in this cafe? If you don't know those people, you can't even write the most basic scene with them in it because you don't know them. You don't know what they'd be doing in that restaurant. So I don't even start writing until I know these people inside and out. And then it's easy for me to write all of these things really quickly and fluidly because I'm already familiar with who they are as people.
Wow. I'm truly fascinated right now. Now I'm just endlessly curious. So are you sitting there thinking about the character as you're thinking about the storyline? Or is it character first, once they're established, then you go into the storyline and then you start writing?
I don't know. It's kind of like a jumble of all the things, sometimes I'll know, okay, here's an example. Like right now I'm working on my 9th book, which is my 2027 book. Whoa. And I'm 5 chapters in and I know what I want my main character to be going through.
Yeah.
I know what I want him to be struggling with. I'm a little uncertain about what I want her to be struggling with and what I want her to be going through and also what's going to keep them apart. So right now I've stopped writing. I'm 5 chapters in. I have stopped writing and all I'm just doing is thinking about it. Like what kind of partner does he need? What kind of partner does she need? How are they perfect for each other? How am I going to get them there? And what am I going to do to keep them apart? And that's all I'm thinking about right now. I'm thinking about that. And I know that there are some fundamental things that I want to happen in that book. Like there's a certain business that I want them to have.
Okay.
I know what job I want them to do. And those jobs shape those people as characters. They're both plumbers. Mm-hmm. So, and she is a plumber. She's a master plumber.
Ooh, okay.
So, we have a woman who's very much in a male-dominated field. How does that shape her personality, her life experiences, her traumas, how she's developed as a person? Does she have a tough skin? Probably. How does that shape who he is to her? Is he protective of her because he knows the discrimination that she experiences on a day-to-day basis? How does he work that in without, taking away some of her autonomy? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Letting her stand up for herself, but also being there if she needs him to come in, in a situation. So it's like, these are the things that I'm thinking about. And I'm going to think about it till I feel really, really good about where I'm at. And then I will sit down and I'll write it.
Okay. And this is 2027 book?
Yes.
Okay. Because 2026 has already been announced. I think you announced the title as The Night We Met.
Yes.
Right.
So that book's already written. It's Chris's book. He's a pharmacist.
Okay.
And then the, I don't think you guys get that here, but there was a deleted prologue in the Barnes & Noble special edition in the US. And that was quite literally The Night They Met.
Okay.
And the title comes from, as we're reading the book, the characters keep reflecting back on the night they met and how they wish they would have done things differently.
Oh my
so
gosh,
it's quite literally, that was the moment where things went awry. It was the night they met.
Okay.
And it's a very, very slow burn romance.
I love a slow burn.
Oh, it's so slow burn.
Okay, but here's the thing though. I also didn't think I liked insta-love until I read Say You'll Remember Me.
Yeah.
And then I was like this, because often people are like, oh, insta-love isn't, it's not realistic. It kind of is sometimes though.
It wasn't really insta-love though. It's insta-like.
Fair.
And
yes.
see, I think that's where people are getting it confused, because they're like, okay, I don't really like Insta love, but I did like this because
Yes.
it's Insta like.
Okay.
Like they saw something in each other. They couldn't stop thinking about each other. They weren't in love with each other right out of the gate, but there was definitely that strong chemistry, that strong pull to each other, and they couldn't forget each other. And I had to give them I had to give them this amazing first date so we could set up the foundation for the reader to believe that they would not be able to stop thinking about each other, after the fact. Like, I hope that all of us at some point in our life, hopefully the person that we're married to, that we had that moment where we met them and you just kind of know. You're just like, I really, really like this person and I'm excited about them. And I know it's really early, but I'm excited. I hope that we all have experienced that kind of instant like.
I like that so much better.
Yes.
Because that's kind of what it was. Like, because they didn't fall in love with each other.
Yes.
But there was an obvious, like, an attraction. I want to spend more time with you, but
yeah. And even when he goes to see her, he's like, what am I doing? Like, I know that this is not going to work. And he's almost hoping that when he goes, that it's going to be like, okay, it was just, all right, false alarm, like I didn't like her as much as I thought I did. And she's sort of hoping for the same thing.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, that's not what happens. And they see each other and it's like, oh boy, this is going to be a problem because we actually really do still like each other. Yeah. But yeah, it's Insta-like.
Insta-like.
Okay. And because they're not declaring their love for each other until well into the book, when it makes sense that they would, that they've been together enough for a long enough time that it makes sense that they would start to have those feelings. But I don't know. I loved the love between them. It was such a, if he wanted to, he would kind of book. And, Xavier deserved the family that he found in this book. Yeah. Like, he deserved it. When I talk about how, I always try and write the partner that they need. Like, I think about who my character is and I give them the partner they need and vice versa. He needed somebody with a big family that he could be a part of, that he could play this role in. And at the end, we so get to see him doing that. He's got Samantha's nephews that really needed that father figure, and Xavier stepped in to be that for them. He gets to be sort of this calming presence within her family that they very much need, and he gets to be a part of that. And Hank too. Hank gets a family too, which was just such a great twist. It
was beautiful. I think we've talked about this time and time again, like while we've been talking about this book. But what do you hope people take away from Xavier and Samantha's story?
I hope people take away the importance of making the memories. Okay. And I made this example at one of my book events the other night. Like, I know that we're all introverts, right? Because most of us readers, I'm going to go on a limb and say that we're probably pretty introverted.
We can say that,
It's an independent, introverted type activity to read a book. And going to events like that is always nerve-wracking. There's the parking situation. There's driving over there. Then maybe you're going to the event by yourself, and maybe you've never been to a book event, and you're worried about going into an unknown environment. But when you go, you make friends. You end up meeting people in line. You end up being so happy that you went. Mm-hmm. And I really hope that if there's anything they take away from this book, it's that you make the memories, because you will never regret going. And if you don't go, you might not regret not going because you don't know what you would have missed.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? So just go and make the memories. Yeah. Buy the candle and burn it. You know what I mean? Like, going back to Life's Too Short, like, use the fancy soap, make the memories, spend time with your friends, take that lunch date, take that coffee date, because it's those small moments that you don't even really remember that are the fabric of your life.
Absolutely. And even if it ends up like not being great, then it's 2 hours of your life gone. But I think you should take those moments and do it.
Make the memories.
Absolutely. Okay. I have some quote trivia for you based on your books. So look here, not at the screen. Steph, I'm going to need you to zoom in just a tad. Okay. So these are from all of your books.
Okay.
We are a mosaic. We are made up of those we've met and all of the things we've been through. There are parts of us that are colorful and dark and jagged and beautiful. And I love every piece of you, even the ones we wish we didn't exist.
Yours truly.
Yeah. Love follows you. It goes where you go. It doesn't know about social divides or distance or common sense. It doesn't even stop when the person you love dies. It does what it wants.
Part of your world.
Yep.
I don't know if you want me to cut you off, but it literally
cut me off if you know it. Then go for it. Yeah. Oh, this one's, I love this quote. You're not asking too much, he said. You're just asking
just
the wrong.
For the summer.
Yep. Okay. Do you ever see yourself acting crazy, but you can't stop because you're not a quitter?
I think that might be Kristen in the friend zone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
Yeah, it's pretty far back. I wrote that book like 8 years ago, and I haven't read it since. But
Okay.
yeah.
That one's a good one. Okay. You can't control the bad things that happen to you. All you can do is decide how much of
Happy Ever After playlist.
Yep. Last one. Well, I guess it kind of narrowed them down, but if you spend your life dwelling on the worst possible
Life's
thing.
too short.
Yeah. Those are good quotes. I pulled those from like a couple of my favorites and like a couple of like I found on Goodreads, but
Yeah.
that was pretty good. Last thing we do at the end of every episode is give all of like the watchers or a listener a book rec.
Okay.
So I guess if someone listened to this whole episode and they haven't picked up any of your books, I know they're all interconnected standalones, but where would you recommend they start?
I would recommend they start with the Part of Your World series.
Okay.
Because I feel like you get the most enjoyment out of that series, starting with Part of Your World, then Yours Truly, and then Just for the Summer.
Mm-hmm.
It's a good introduction to my books. It's, my strong, as I went, I became a stronger author as I went. And if you love those, and then say, oh, remember me, and then you can circle back to the beginning and start on my first books. Or another really safe way to go is maybe start with one of my short stories, The Fall Risk. It's super cheap. It's also, I think, available on KU.
Yes.
It's only an 82-page commitment, and it's a really good, little taste test to see if you like my writing. If you like that, then start with the Part of Your World series.
Okay. Amazing. Well, thank you so much for coming on here.
Thank you for having us.
We went through a lot. We went through the Firefighters,
yes,
and the cupcakes, and what you're currently reading, Part of Your World, and then Say You Remember Me, which is now out as of when? April 1st it came out?
It was out on April 1st,
wow.
yes.
Okay.
Number 1 New York Times bestseller.
Incredible.
2 categories.
No surprise. Like
literally
no surprise. No.
Well, because it was my first hardcover, and yes,
I have the ARC.
You guys have the paperback. No, you guys have the paperback here. You don't have the hardcover. But in the United States, it was my first hardcover release, and that's a big pond with some really big fish. So I'm up against I'm up against some really heavy hitters, and I was like, there's no way this book is going to be number 1, given that it's hardcover and there's so many really big authors that are, published in hardcover.
I didn't know it was a difference. Yes. I thought they all went in the same pool. So just like books.
It was just, it was not expected for me.
Wow. Yeah. Well, you deserve it. It's an incredible book, and everyone should go read it. Anyways, well, thank you for coming on. Thank you guys so much for listening to Off the Shelf, and we will see you next Thursday.